Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'm Benjamin, co-founder and CEO of Adores.
I'm Yassine, CTO and co-founder of Adores.
And today we're going to talk about podcasting and more specifically how podcasters can monetize their creation, their podcast, thanks to web monetization. So the first thing you have to understand is as a podcaster or even as a podcast addict, when you hear about web monetization and Interledger, you probably hear about SPSP and WM and push pay and pull pay and ILPP address and all this kind of stuff. So it doesn't look that easy. So what we're going to do here and now is showing how to make that actually work so that as a podcaster, you can get your podcast monetized. So the first thing is you probably need an account and a wallet either at GitHub or Uphold. When you have done that, you copy-paste your wallet address to your podcast. Now, as a listener, what you would do is create an account at coil.com. You get a $5 per month subscription, and then in order to listen to a podcast, you use either Puma or a Coil extension. So when that is done, that's it. The podcast can make real money in real time, and we're good to go. So thank you for your attention, and have a nice day.
Come back.
Oh. Actually, we got some time left. So we're going to go into the details. So we start over from the beginning, from the podcaster point of view. So as a podcaster, it's not that easy to be monetized. And when we think about monetization and podcasting, usually we think about advertising. We usually say that only 1% of podcasts are monetized thanks to advertising. And the thing is, when you do that, you lose in some way creativity because as soon as you are paid by an advertiser, you won't be able to say everything you would have said without that. So a solution is to put a paywall. But as you heard earlier, the paywall creates a problem in a sense that you have an audience, and if you put a paywall, like mechanically, you will lose some of it. So you have to choose between making a big audience or making big money. And that's an issue that we can try to solve with web monetization. So either you want to get more money or more audience. In between, thanks to web monetization and podcasting 2.0, you can have people pay for your content, but you won't block everyone. In the recent news and the past month, we saw like very successful podcasts being blocked behind paywalls, and I'm thinking, for instance, as about Gimlet podcasts being put behind the paywalls by Spotify. The result was that the audience shrunk, and it became so little that they had to cancel the shows. So that's a problem. You don't want to have to choose between the money and the audience. And so web monetization allows you to keep both of them. And podcasting 2.0 allows you to put monetization within your podcast. So what is podcasting 2.0? It's an open specification. It was created like 2 years ago. And why? If you think about podcasting is about 20 years old. And it's became quite successful, but since the early 2000, the year 2000, we saw DSL connections, we saw mobile phone coming, we saw social network, video on the internet, So like at least 5 revolutions, but podcasting hasn't evolved at all. The podcasts we saw 20 years ago are the exact same in terms of how many features you can get on them. Nothing has changed. So podcasting 2.0 is here to solve that and to bring many new features to podcasting. And it's quite recent because it was launched 2 years ago, and there are already over 60 platforms and applications that are using that. And probably the more important part about podcasting 2.0 is that it's interoperability, meaning that any player that will use this specification will be able to play with the other one. So here you have hosting platforms and you have mobile apps, you have directories. They all can use the same features and talk together thanks to podcasting 2.0. So now we're going to focus on one of them, which is called Castopod, and Yassine.
Yeah.
Thank you.
More about that.
Thank you, Ben. So Castopod. Castopod is the little bot that you see there. And it's a project we've been working on with Benjamin about 3 years now. It's free, libre, and open source podcast hosting. So basically, you can create your podcast and have it broadcasted anywhere on listening apps and directories, such as Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and amongst others. It includes podcasting 2.0 features. As Benjamin mentioned, there are new features in podcasting today, and such as transcripts, chapters, content geolocation, built-in social network, built-in analytics, video clips, sound bites, and the list goes on. It has interoperability in three fronts. First one is that the podcast ecosystem by itself is decentralized by nature, so using RSS. The second one is that it's included in the Fediverse. It can speak with Mastodon and other apps and using the ActivityPub protocol. And the third one is that it allows multiple payment systems, one of which is web monetization. So now I'm gonna show you how we can set up web monetization with Castopod with some screenshots. So first of all, if there's one thing to remember from this demo session, is that on castopod.org you can find whatever you need to get started. Clicking on the Get Started, you get started, and so you have all of the resources. First off, you can self-host it, install it on your own server, or you can ask us if you'd like us to take care of it. Then, after the install, here for the demo's sake, we're gonna go a few moments later and gonna get to the admin panel through the login. So you can log in. This is what it looks like on the backend side. We can create a podcast. Here, we fill in all of the information that will be displayed on the listening apps, the directories, etc. And we have the title, the cover, the description, and all of the metadata of the podcast. If we scroll down, we have the monetization section where we can add our payment pointer, our wallet address, but we don't have it yet. So we have to get it either from Uphold or GitHub, as you probably know. Here, I'm going to show you with GitHub how you can create the wallet quite easily. So we have to create a hosted wallet by going to My Wallet, Add Wallet, and here we create the hosted wallet, give it a name, and voila. Now to get the Interledger payment pointer, we go to the Add Funds, scroll down to the end, and there is Interledger. We have to copy the link and paste it there. So now by saving, you get a podcast that's ready to be monetized with Castopod and Web Monetization. And your listeners just have to go to Coil, get a $5 subscription, and you get this result. So on the right hand, pun intended, I don't know if you, yeah. We get a smartphone with like the Castopod website, and we can see that the listener can just stream by listening, and the podcaster gets his GitHub dashboards like updated in real time. So this is, by the way, a demo that is live currently. So if you go to ilpsummit22.castopod.com, you can give us money. Yeah. So now back to business with Benjamin.
Yeah, so is it done? Yeah, still. So let's talk a little bit, let's take a step back and talk about the benefits and the drawbacks of all of this. So first, as you saw in the introduction, it's super easy. Setting up a podcast and using code is really easy. So it's easy for the podcasters and it's easy for the listeners. And for the listeners, it allows you to control the budget. So everything is under control. You know that you're going to spend $5 every month, no less, no more. On the other hand, one problem that we could see is that sharing revenues, splitting money, is not impossible with Coil, but it's not very easy. It's not easy, and it's not working the way we would need for podcasting. Let's say you're a podcaster, and you want to share money with a special guest that you had on your show, or maybe a sound engineer, or maybe an open source hosting platform because you think that's really cool. Well, that's going to be difficult to do with Coil right now. It's not impossible, but difficult. The second point is that so far, as of today, we don't have any podcast app that embeds Coil and the whole process within a podcast app. So it works, and we showed you that it does work. But it does not work within a podcast app. And the thing is, if it did work within a podcast app, you would be streaming money while listening to a podcast, even if your cell phone is locked and the screen is off. Whereas right now, you need to be on a web browser, and you need to watch the page. So you'll be streaming money while you are watching the page, whether you are listening or not, by the way. And last, well, the budget is under control, but maybe you don't want to control the budget, especially if you're the podcaster. But maybe you want to give more than $5 to a podcaster. And with Coil, as it is now, it's impossible. The maximum amount that a podcaster will receive is $5. And it will be split between all the podcasts, so it will be even less than that. So regarding the money, because obviously everything we're talking about is about the money, let's give some figures. We don't have any answers. We cannot foresee the futures, but we can see some figures. So first, there are now 4 million podcasts. So that's a big number. That's a big number, and we know that only very few of them are monetized. There are only few of them monetized with advertising, but still, in the US only, last year, the turnover hit $1.4 billion. And if we are looking at audiobooks, which maybe look a little bit closer to what we're trying to do here, the revenues reached $1.6 billion. So I'm not saying that this is what we're going to do with web monetization next year, but that gives an idea of what is possible here. So now, as a conclusion, we would like to open the discussion and see what we would like to be talking about with all of you, some of you, and what we think should occupies our day in the near future. So first, as I already mentioned, we probably need a podcasting app, a listening app, that embeds web monetization with a coil connection. And also, if we do that, probably that will allow to solve the splitting problem, the splitting issue. And the last thing, we saw that coil is a time-based payment system. So the longer you're listening to a podcast, the more money you're going to stream to the podcaster. So this seems like a pretty good idea, but for some specific case, maybe it's not. Maybe the value that I think a podcast is worth is not the same as someone else. So maybe I think that one podcast is worth $5 a month. Maybe it's 10, maybe it's 100. It depends on me. So the value that I want to share to give to a podcast may depend on the listener. And so far with coil, we cannot do that. So I'm not saying that coil should do it, but we probably need to talk about this and wonder if that's something we want to put on the table or on the roadmap or not. So that's it for us. Again, for real this time. So thank you. If you have any question, I think we have a few minutes left. And you can talk to us either around here or on the Fediverse or Twitter. And you can scan the QR code to get the slides.
Thank you, Benjamin and Yassine. If I've learned anything today, is if somebody's on stage talking on web monetization, I can count on Travis for a question. Travis, you know you want to.
Hi, Travis McCoyle. You talked about, stream payments versus punch-out models. When you think about like a one-time payment or different sides of payment, have you thought about what that actually might look like? Like, would you look at a 10-cent payment, or like, would you have the user do an interaction with it, or?
Sorry, we didn't hear well.
Can you get closer to the microphone?
Yeah. So like when you mentioned at the end, you said like, there's streaming payments right now, but maybe there's other models we should look at. Mm-hmm. For a podcast, what model do you think actually makes sense? Like, is it the user goes to it and they pay 10 cents to access it, like per episode, or have you kind of thought about what that could look like?
Well, I think that the coil system as it is now is a very good one because, as we said, it's very simple. And simplicity is probably the most important thing as of now. And this will probably, or at least I hope, allow to grow the audience and the number of people who are willing to pay $5 a month. And if it goes strong enough, probably everything will be happy. In some specific case, it won't work. But we cannot build a system that works for 100% of podcasters and 100% of listeners. But I don't have the answer. So what we're saying is we need to talk with people who are maybe know otherwise or know better, or it depends. We don't have the answer to that question, yeah.
Thank you. That makes sense. Yeah, we don't know either, so.
But we'd be very happy to talk about this with you.
So there's actually a line of people who want to ask questions. Arunjay, I'm extremely sorry. I pushed Travis forward. That's on me. Do you want to ask a question?
Cool. No, it's super interesting. I had one question really between the free podcast and the, sort of that 2.0 kind of middle of the Venn diagram. And so my question is this, which is the incentive is on I have to be like this good Samaritan who wants to contribute, right? Like, there's no access issue here. So if I choose, I can just listen to all of the content and not sign up and pay. Or is there something extra that I'm getting by joining Coil and doing this?
There can be. With Castopod, you are able to make a premium content podcast. So you can limit the access of a specific content to people who are paying. It can be fiat money or anything. So it could be using web monetization, just as we saw in a previous presentation. That could work.
Okay, cool.
Just a very quick question. We saw the divide between web monetization or one payment fees, right? Now, what about an intermediate model? What I'm worried about is that although web monetization is genial, right? It's wonderful though in the way it works, and it's a really new world of opportunities. There is a limitation when people are conscious of spending money, even if it's not much, when you have long contents that are worth it. So what I mean is this: imagine a video. The video, in fact, is quite good, but then there's always a small reflection. Well, I'm paying for every second or every moment. So at some point, it's not my case, but I'm imagining it could be discouraging for some people to go up to the end of the content. So that would create a case in which probably the average would be in the middle. Those if are good content. So in the beginning, some people are leaving, right? But those who stay will like the content. But then at some point they will say, well, it's enough. I don't want it to be too expensive, and so I leave. So this example is simply to say, have you considered an intermediate model in which web monetization is essentially there, of course, but up to a limit? And have you done any statistics on this? Whether, I don't know, charging for 2 minutes and afterwards simply you pay the basic fee so that you can continue the 5 minutes article, podcast, video, whatever, and without the cost? Is that a model that is possible with Call, and is it something that you have considered?
So we haven't done any statistic on this. There's nothing we can do really because we depend on the Coil plugin, and it's the Coil plugins who decides who gets money. And as the podcast hosting platform, we don't. We could do it like if we developed a podcast app with web monetization and connection to Coil embed. Yeah, we could be doing that. I'm not sure I don't know if that's a good idea. We need to think that through, because the thing about Coil is, as a listener, you don't know how much money you're spending, because at the end of the day, at the end of the month, you'll spend $5, that's for sure. So basically, the first 15 hours are like 40 cents per hour. But to you as a listener, it's transparent. And I think that's very important, that it's automatic and easy. You don't have to take care and to think about, oh, I am spending too much money on this. At the end of the month, statistically, the good content will get more money, and that's what is important, I think. So yeah, for some specific case, maybe we should tweak it, but I'm not sure that's a good idea, and probably we need the system to get to a larger scale before we modify it. But that's just my idea.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Braylon?
Okay, so I appreciate you mentioning the shortcoming of not being able to utilize applications. So considering the vast majority of podcast listenership comes from like Spotify and iTunes or a podcast app, do you have any path forward in how you could leverage those listeners and enable web monetization through those channels?
They are first all the open source ones, and probably Pocket Cast just became open source. I think about Podcast Addict, which is not open source, but which has like almost all the podcasting 2.0 features. And there are many of them, and probably Spotify will never use that because they have their own system and it's a closed silo. But that's the way it's always going to be, and I would not recommend to listen to podcasts on Spotify, but that's just me.
Okay, that does lead into a second question that I have. So as far as your implementation, so right now, can you only pay for monetized podcast on the Castopod website, or are you embedding the or the payment pointer in the RSS feed for other platforms to be able to pick up and utilize?
As far as I know, we are the only one who implemented yet.
Yeah, and we do have it on the RSS feed as well.
But it is in the RSS feed, and it is done according to the Podcasting 2.0 specification.
Yeah, we have like a kind of draft, a proposal that is up now, like waiting to be reviewed and accepted. And like we have a spec written, Castopod implemented it, and like someone with a player, open source player, just had it working with a Castopod podcast. So it works in practice, and we're just waiting for the proposal to go through. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, everybody. Thank you, Benjamin Yassine.
Thank you.